We're back at Atlanta Motor Speedway near Hampton, Georgia, and standing by for the beginning of happy hour. The final practice period for the NASCAR Winston Cup cars. Robbie Gordon will start on the pole for tomorrow's race. He set a new track record yesterday in qualifying and has Mark Martin alongside him in row number 1 tomorrow after Martin won today's Busch race.
And I love that second row.
Yeah, how about that? Darrell Waltrip and Dick Trickle. For those of us over or nearing 50, that's good to see.
And a way to work, guys.
A great run for both those guys, and Waltrip is pumped up, as he has been practically all year, but this is looking pretty good for him. Well, let's find out what happened to Michael Waltrip in the Busch race.
Well, he had a great race, just a disappointing finish. Ronnie, what happened there at the end? Any idea yet?
Well, we can't put our finger on exactly what it was. We don't see anything. Michael thought it had a flat, and obviously it. The only thing we see, that quarter panel on the right rear turned around on it and started getting a lot of air in the trunk, and it was probably really upsetting the car and made it feel like a flat. Or it has a gear, maybe a ratchet or something in the rear end bad. But that's all. It's just guessing now.
It's a fast car, though.
Oh, we were real happy. The little Band-Aid Ford was really running. I don't know if we could have handled Mark there at the end, but he was sure going to work on him if he could get to him.
You going to Vegas next week?
We're leaving to Vegas on Wednesday, and this truck probably leave from here and go on out there. Looking forward to that. Maybe we can win that one.
All right. Thanks for talking to us. Good luck out there.
See ya.
Disappointing finish for Michael Waltrip, who was running in second position until just the final few laps when, as you heard Ronnie explain, something went wrong. The cars, the NASCAR Winston Cup cars, are coming on to pit road, and in just a moment they'll get the okay from the NASCAR officials. The green light will go on, and happy hour will be underway, and we are here live for it. We'll be right back. Winston Cup cars coming on to pit road, and in just a moment we will get underway with happy hour. There is Jeff Gordon, who pulls out of the garage area. Up front we have Sterling Marlin. To the left and to the right we have Morgan Shepherd. So just about everybody coming out for the final practice. NASCAR timing and scoring presented by MCI. Here comes Greg Sachs out of the garage area. Chad Little is also making his way out in the John Deere Pontiac.
Greg Sachs had a good qualifying run today. He had to requalify, didn't get in the field yesterday, and not many cars got in the field today as a result of qualifying, but Greg Sachs was one of them. The track was slower today than yesterday. Yeah,
Greg Sachs will start in 28th position tomorrow as a result of this morning's second round qualifying.
But the big news is Dale Earnhardt will start 26th. He did not qualify yesterday, qualified today 26th.
Let's go down to Dave Despain.
Welcome to one of the most interesting hours in racing television in my mind. We call it happy hour. You know, it's a spin-off from the bar term. I'm not sure how happy it is for the guys who do all the work. Look at them over here. They're not working right now. But you give this thing about, what, 5 minutes before that 4-car comes back in, wanting everything imaginable changed on it. These guys are going to be hopping, jumping, stepping, believe me. Here is the whole goal. Do you believe this? Do you believe this? We've had our first crash of happy hour. Billy Standridge and Lake Speed crashed getting to pit road. Bill Weber, can you tell me what's going on down there?
Well, I can tell you it's a tight squeeze trying to get out of the garage here and up the ramp and out onto pit road. And you can see that the right front corner of Billy Standridge's car is bashed in. Lake Speed has damage near the left front wheel well. So obviously this is very disappointing for Billy and his crew. He's still sitting in the car with the helmet on the window net up, so we can't talk to him. The crew will try and pull this out and do the best job they can. Then they'll want to get Billy out on the track for as much practice as they can and then work on it afterwards. But very disappointing start for these guys. 78-9 with a little bump here on pit road even before happy hour starts. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 60 minutes, Double D.
Those guys are part of a very interesting story here. The qualifying rundown for this weekend is very unusual. Billy Standridge is qualified 11th for this race. Listen to some of these names up front. Hut Strickland will start 5th tomorrow. Lake Speed was scheduled to start 6th. Will, in fact, start 6th. I'm sure that's a car they can fix. You've got Ted Musgrave with a good qualifying run. That's been an exception of late. Ricky Craven, not so good. He qualified 13th. In fact, the Hendrick cars are 13th and 22nd and 23rd. So they certainly did not have a sensational qualifying. Again, Qualifying and racing are two very different things, and happy hour is really when we make the transition. Time trials are history now. The race motors are in. The race setups are in. This is the hour when you dial in the package and look for the combination that you hope will help you win the PRIMESTAR 500. We'll have it all for the next hour. Stay tuned for more from Atlanta.
Back at Atlanta Motor Speedway, where the NASCAR Winston Cup cars are on the racetrack and happy hour is underway. And we thank you for joining us. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with Benny Parsons and Ned Jarrett up here in the booth. And we have Dave Despain and Jerry Punch down on pit road. And we are set for what should be an exciting hour of setting the cars up for tomorrow.
Ricky Rudd, John Andretti, Jeremy Mayfield. And now we see the new car, the new colors of Ward Burton.
The racetrack is the closest to actual race conditions it has been. Of course, the Busch race just being finished in the last hour. And they run the same tires that the Winston Cup cars run. So that means one thing, there's a lot of rubber on the racetrack. And that'll cause a little bit of a different feel in the race car and sometimes a different setting.
Well, we heard about that collision on pit road between Billy Standridge and Lake Speed. Dave Despain has an update on that.
They're working on the right front of Billy Standridge's car. The impact knocked the fender loose enough that they couldn't send the car out. In reality, there's not a great deal they can learn with the aerodynamics that far out of whack anyway. And so the decision was made, bring the car back in, go to work on it, do our best to get it right, and then get back out. Billy is still in the car, which, as you can see, is sitting at a fairly bizarre angle, and it's a little tight over there, but I'm going to go over there and try to get a quick word with him. Remember, Billy had the misfortune of crashing in happy hour last year after qualifying for this race in the fall, but that was at speed out on the racetrack. Billy, what happened anyway?
Well, I guess they got somebody here directing traffic, which is a new person than what normally directs it. And he told me to come on out, and I guess Lake Speed come around the corner, and, you know, he had two of us going for the same hole.
So you had a green light, though?
Oh, yeah. He told me to come on, and I don't know, maybe somebody on the other side told Lake Speed to come on. So, you know, I'm not blaming it on Lake Speed. It's official that the motion is out there. It's fault.
How big a setback is this? What did you need to try to get done during this hour?
Well, we really needed this full hour of practice, because this morning's practice, the car was, you know, I don't know if it's a extra rubber got laid on the track or what, but the car just wasn't right this morning. We made a lot of changes, and we need to get back out there, and we need to spend a full hour trying to get this thing dialed in.
Now, the hood's about to go down, Billy. Maybe you'll be back out there quickly. I told you about qualifying surprises here. One of the pleasant surprises, Kenny Wallace. Let's go to Jerry.
Well, Mike Wallace, also a pleasant surprise. Mike, you have had the worst luck of anybody in 1997, but finally you're going to get to start a Winston Cup race.
Well, yeah, it's nice to be able to work on Sunday. You know, we ran okay in a Busch race, not great, but I'm thrilled to be here, mainly for my team, the sponsors, Spam, Hormel Foods, and I got to take a minute and thank Jim Splinter and Jeff Krev and Eric Brown, all those guys from Hormel. I mean, they could have jumped out of this deal anytime they wanted, but they stuck behind us, and they're in it for the long haul, and man, it's great to be here.
Well, the bad news is you got some pretty good company back there in row 19. Brother Rusty starts beside you.
Yeah, I told everybody, I says, well, you know, 37th isn't too great, but everybody talks about how good Rusty always is. I says, he's 38th, so what the heck.
All right, Mike and Rusty Wallace. It's an all-Wallace row 19 as Mike gets his first start tomorrow. And, guys, last week's winner still struggling.
Well, that's right. The guy who drove to victory lane at Richmond just last Sunday has had a real tough time just getting into the field this weekend. He was the slowest qualifier of all. He'll start in 38th position, and the only 4 drivers that will start behind him took provisionals to get in. Another big story here this weekend, as Benny said just a few minutes ago, is Dale Earnhardt. After first round qualifying, he was what, 34th fastest?
No, you've got it transposed. He was 43rd. You know, just really struggled. But he said, look, we were 25th fastest, and we knew we had to get something going, so they made some changes. He said we simply went the wrong way and slowed down. But this morning, he was by far the fastest car in practice.
And in second round qualifying, he will start 26th in tomorrow's PRIMESTAR 500, qualified in second round today at 183.693. Looking out the back of Mark Martin's car to Jeff Gordon, who's right behind him, racing down the backstretch.
And Earnhardt would be the next car. There we see Dale Jarrett on the 8th of the racetrack as those cars go by. Ernie Irvin also back there.
They like to get out there and race with other cars. When they're setting up for qualifying, they want to be on the racetrack by themselves. But when they're setting up for the race, they want to get out there with other cars, see how they're stacked up against, and also see how their cars feel in the traffic. Because they've reached some tremendous speeds here, 200 miles an hour on the straightaway, and drafting comes into play. So they want to see how those cars act in that area.
Here are Bill Elliott and Ken Schrader again down the backstretch. That's Elliott in the 94 McDonald's car, and here is a 3 wide coming off the 4th corner as Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, and Jeff Gordon. Chad Little.
That's who you meant, right? And we see Jeff Gordon is trying to work his way through. He's been able to get by Mark Martin, and now we look on the inside. That's the 20 car, who was second fastest car today. Kyle Taylor, the Hot Wheels cars, getting his car the temperature up to speed.
Dave Despain has an update on Morgan Shepherd and Rick Mast.
Well, before I do that, let me quickly correct that earlier Wallace incident. Kenny Wallace was a pleasant surprise in this race because he qualified 10th. Outqualified both his brothers. All right. Here, as the driver of the 75, Rick Mast, pulling out, they did a plug check. They went for air pressure and are about to send him back out. Meanwhile, right next door, the car that he drove last year. They basically traded jobs, and that driver, of course, would be Morgan Shepherd, and they've just gone for a shock change on the right rear. Morgan's a 3-time winner on this racetrack, likes this racetrack a great deal, and has qualified 21st for the race this weekend. Next door to him is Jeff Bodine, and they are backing the car back out. This was a real quick visit to the pits, and I'm not sure they're quite finished yet. They were very happy with the way the car was performing. Remember, just before we went on the air on the tail end of the Busch show, if you caught that, they were talking about the difficulty of being loose in and tight out, and Jeff reports in that first short run the car was very good going into the corner. They're in there working on it. Let's go to Jerry.
Well, what we're watching here is a little bit of a skull session, sort of a meeting of the minds. Bobby Labonte talking with crew chief Jimmy Maycar, and they're doing a lot of hand signals here, trying to decipher if they can get the car dialed in. Let's move in here and see if we can figure out what they're talking about. Bobby, is this a good discussion or a bad discussion? Are you pretty close?
Yeah, we're still working with it. It's not bad right now, but a few things we want to try just to see if they'll be any better or not, and kind of go from there. But we still got some things to try. It's not a bad discussion by no means. Never a bad discussion between us. So we'll just work on it and see what we can do.
You were the fastest car in practice, the fastest in this currently in this session. You're the fastest car by far in this session. The problems with qualifying put you back 29th to start, but you did a heck of a job to hang on to the race car.
Well, it was pretty loose, but you know, I mean, that's part of it. You just, you know, you carry it right to the edge, and sometimes you go a little too far. But you know, let's see here. I think Earnhardt's won from back there before, maybe. I'm not sure, so I don't know. We'll see how good we run, but we've got a good race car. The Interstate Battery Pontiac's really good. We just got to, you know, just see what we can do with it tomorrow. I mean, just work on it here today, get it handling real good, comfortable, and for a long run especially, and then we go from there. We know it could go fast for a couple laps, but we got to make it run good for a long run.
And it's going to show you, folks, they are the fastest car in this session, and they are still working on the race car. This guy, back in November, walked away with $274,900 for winning the race, the Napa 500 here in Atlanta.
Right now, he's the fastest in the happy hour. He was third in this morning's practice session. There is Ricky Craven, who happens to be the second fastest in this session at 179.411, just a tick of the watch slower than Bobby Labonte, but he too is headed for pit road, dropping down to the apron of the racetrack, and he's coming up on Terry Labonte, his teammate, who is also coming into the pits. NASCAR Winston Cup Happy Hour is underway from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Tomorrow, the PRIMESTAR 500 on ABC. We ride right along with Mark Martin as NASCAR Winston Cup Happy Hour continues, and he's been out there a long time.
Yes, when we first came on, Mark Martin was out there. He still continues. Evidently, his car feels pretty good. He's trying to get this thing to do something. Either start pushing, get loose, so he can start adjusting on the car. Right now, he must be fairly happy with it.
Jeff Gordon was also on a long run, but as you can see, he has entered pit road, so he'll be getting a tire check before he goes into the, well, he's going into the garage area right now. He is currently fourth quickest with a 30.594 second lap.
And that was early in his run when he perhaps had new tires on. When Jeff came into the pits, he was running over 31 seconds, but they do slow down after they run for a little while.
Mark Martin, it's been a long time since he won a NASCAR Winston Cup race. As a matter of fact, it's been 37 races ago. His last victory was in October of 1995 at Charlotte. However, he has 9 NASCAR Busch Series wins. He won the IROC Championship, and he has finished in the top 5 15 times in Winston Cup competition. So you got to feel that a victory is right around the corner for Mark Martin in Winston Cup. Well, Rusty Wallace has been out there, back in, and now he's headed back out to the racetrack. There he goes under the tunnel. Our in-car camera signal breaks up just a little bit as he goes under the tunnel, but now he pulls out the pit road and will be pulling back out onto the racetrack. Here's the 24 car, Jeff Gordon.
That's a show car or something. That's not...
Well, the show cars, of course, are identical to those that go on the racetrack, so we were confused. Doc, help us out here.
Well, the 24 car actually is right over there. We get Corky to tilt over and we show you it's right there, Bob, sitting here. They've come in. They're pleased with the car thus far. They're going to make a couple of minor adjustments, may even change the shock. Let's talk to Richard Childress about his 2 cars. Richard, Mike Skinner, 10th quickest overall in this session. Earnhardt now 18th fastest, but what a comeback from first day qualifying when the 3 car was 43rd quickest.
Yeah, you know, we made several adjustments, and we just kind of missed the setup a little bit when we qualified, and he really got loose. He hung onto the car. It was plumb out of control, but we're going to be okay for the race. We still got to, you know, we got to get used to working everything out, and one thing in racing you got to have is patience, and this team's got patience and confidence.
You came back today and vindicated yourself. You're the fastest qualifier in second round. You'll start 26, but how tough is it with so many young people on this crew to not let their spirits get down? They have not had a top 10 finish thus far in 97.
Well, you know, it's tough anytime you're used to, you know, running in the front and winning and leading the races. We're going to get there. It's just going to take a little work to get it back there.
All right, Richard, we'll get out of your way here and let they're working on your car. Well, meanwhile, we'll walk up here and see what's going on with Jeff Gordon's car. Now, this crew, there's Dale Jarrett, who's brought his car in. They are talking to Jeff Gordon. There's Ray Evernham and the crew now trying to discuss with Jeff what the car is doing. And as they talk to Jeff, maybe we'll let them finish their discussion. Why don't we walk over here and talk to Dale Jarrett, who's sitting in his car. We'll go next door, and Dale getting ready to climb out. We'll see indeed if possibly he's trying to talk to his crew members, trying to talk to Todd Parrott to see how close the car is. Dale, are you pretty close?
No.
Not at all. He obviously not very happy with what's happening. Got the tools in there. They're going to make some adjustments on the car. Todd Parrott. Folks, that's why we call it happy hour. We may think it's happy, but it is total frustration, confusion, chaos. And you can tell by looking at Dale Jarrett's eyes and Todd Parrott, they are not happy with the way this car is handling. They have a ways to go. When the driver picks up the tool and starts working, you know everyone is pitching in. And I got to believe tomorrow this car will be a factor, but right now they are not happy campers. Dave?
The expertise of the Wood brothers. We mentioned Morgan Shepherd's victory here. It came with the Wood brothers. They are one of the most successful teams on this racetrack. The spark plugs are really the diagnostic tool for what's going on inside the engine. If the color of the electrode is proper, it means the mixture, the fuel mixture, is correct. If it's a little too white, you're a little too lean. If it's a little too dark, you're a little too rich. You got to get that just right. They made a shock change while they were in. And you mentioned long faces. Michael kind of has one of those. Did I mention that Michael Waltrip now drives this car? 11th quick according to the clock so far, but they've run some laps since you came in here. You didn't look like you were smiling when you came in.
No, we haven't been real good off the corner. The car wants to push, and we're working on that. Eddie changed the shocks. He's been a real help to me this weekend. Eddie Wood, my crew chief, he's never driven a race car, and he told me that he felt like that if you let off the gas and hit the brakes, you're wasting your time. You just needed to hit the gas and don't mess with the brakes. And I'm giving that a whirl, and it's working pretty good. Worked good in the Busch car. We just get this thing lined up where to work that way, we'll be all right.
He needs to go back to work. He's got to get his hat on. He had a shot at winning that Busch race until he had to make a pit stop late that cost him the opportunity for the victory. Jeff Burton was over a moment ago to check in with Michael and commiserate a little bit, and now Jeff Gordon is with Jerry Punch.
Well, Jeff Gordon won this race 2 years ago in the spring of 1995. And Jeffrey, despite the frustrations on qualifying day, your crew able to smile. The car must be awfully close.
Well, we're supposed to be smiling. It's happy hour, right, Jerry? The car's close. We're just trying to fine tune. This is like, you know, our test session, and this is what the track's going to be like late in the afternoon tomorrow. So, you know, we're a little bit tied up off, and we'd like to work with that. But everything you do to free it up off makes it loose getting in. So just trying to find that right combination.
How much has the track changed from this morning when you had the practice session prior to the Busch race, and now they've run 300 miles?
A little bit. You know, it's a little greasier. Cars aren't sticking quite as well, but my car's pretty much got the same characteristics that we had this morning.
Even though you're starting back toward the middle of the field, the good news is you got a lot of time to get there. It's a long afternoon.
Yeah, I'd still like to have that better qualifying run. I mean, I like to start up front, and it makes your job a little bit easier, and you get into sync a little bit faster, and you get a much better pit for pit stall out there on pit road. But, you know, we've got a good car. We know we can come to the front. We've started back there quite a few times, actually, here.
All right, Jeff Gordon will start his car number 24, the DuPont Chevrolet, back in 23rd spot. And Mark Martin has not been back in, guys. He must have liked this day. Saturday's been his day thus far. He won the Busch race, and apparently he's doing a long run in the Winston Cup car.
Well, he's only 16th fastest right now, but he has been out there a long time.
He does that every week. Every Saturday afternoon, Mark Martin runs more laps in happy hour most of the time than anybody else, and he makes those long runs. He wants to know how that car's going to feel after he's run 30 or 40 laps, not just 8 or 10 laps. It's very smart, because most of the time you're out there on old tires longer than you are on new tires.
And we've seen cars come in and make changes, but you're right, Ned, they go back on the racetrack with those fresh tires, and they might not be learning as much as Mark Martin is right now by staying on that racetrack, running lap after lap. And look, now he finally is going to stop and come into the garage area.
And we'll check in with him in just a moment. Meanwhile, we remind you to begin our coverage tomorrow with NASCAR Today, live at 12:30 here on ESPN2. And then we invite you to change over to ABC television. That's where the PRIMESTAR 500 will have live coverage beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Time from here at Atlanta. Happy Hour coverage continues in just a moment. Stay with us. Michael Waltrip and Mike Skinner get in a few laps here as NASCAR Winston Cup Happy Hour continues from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Right now, the fastest driver remains Bobby Labonte in a 179.446 as we ride along with Michael Waltrip. Jerry Punch was down there with Dale Jarrett a while ago, and he wasn't very happy. Things better now, Doc?
Well, this guy's always in a great mood, but sometimes they got a lot of things to do. They just don't have time to talk. DJ, I know it's been a frustrating day for you in the Busch car number 1. The car wasn't quite right for you, but how about the Winston Cup machine?
It's not bad. We made a couple adjustments from this morning. The track has changed quite a bit from this morning, so we're kind of putting back what we had. We thought we were pretty good this morning. We just wanted to see what the track might do and what these changes may do for us. But I think we're pretty good with this car, so I had to put on my white rain hat because I didn't get those guys much exposure today except when I was getting laps. So wasn't a good day in the Busch car, but hopefully tomorrow's going to be a good day for us, I believe.
Atlanta has been a very good track for you. It was good for your dad Ned here over the years, but last year you started 36th and finished 11th in this race, and back last fall you were gaining on Bobby Labonte when the checkered flag fell.
Yeah, we had a good race car. Same race car we ran in both of those. Last year, this race was the very first time this car ever raced, and this is by far my favorite car. We won with Charlotte and Michigan with this car, and it's just a really good race car, and I enjoy driving it. Todd and them do such a great job for me with it. It makes my job a lot easier. Atlanta's a fun racetrack. It's so incredibly fast right now that it makes it fun when you have a good race car. When you don't, it's not a lot of fun, but hopefully I'll have a lot of fun tomorrow.
All right, didn't have much fun today in the white rain Ford in the Busch race, but he's having some fun now and hopes to have a great time tomorrow as he starts this car number 88 back in ninth spot. Now, what about Mark Martin, who had a long run? Let's go to Double D standing by with Double M.
All right, and Double M just had a long conversation with Jimmy Finnick, his new crew chief, as they work on setup here. They're going to go for changes all around. Mark, great run in the Busch race, first of all. Now you're back out there with a real long run in the 6 car. What were you trying to find?
Trying to get it like the Busch car.
Yeah, that couldn't get much better than that. Is it close yet?
Yes, it is, believe it or not. We haven't managed to get it like that at Rockingham or at Richmond, but right now it is like the Busch car. Whether that's good enough, I don't know. The Busch car might not have been good enough to beat Michael Waltrip there at the end, but he had a flat tire. We're just trying to get this thing, this Valvoline car, to work on the long run as good as we did, as good as we had today.
What did you see in that last one that you want to try to improve on? Is there one thing you can put your finger on? What change are you going for in this stop?
No, I was real happy with it. We're going to make a change just to see what happens, but I'll take what I had on that long run and line it up and go and take my shot at it. But we're going to change this one spring and make this run another 30-lap run and see what happens.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the time. I'll tell you what, these guys are so cooperative because they've got so much on their minds. The key there, I think, is the fact that what they're going to do now is experimental. They've found something very, very good. They like the setup. Now they can afford to try something different, see if it's better or see if it's worse. One thing to remember about this race, a lot of times here you get an early caution and then run green all day. If you can't get the car right in that first caution, you're not going to get another chance to get it right until very late in the race. Dale Jarrett has just gone back out. Remember the Atlanta race last fall? They got the car just right on the last pit stop, but it was too late. He ran out of laps and couldn't run down Bobby Labonte. Mark Martin will start second tomorrow. These guys are in good shape.
We talked about how long it's been since Mark Martin had a win in NASCAR Winston Cup racing. It's also been a long dry spell for Dale Earnhardt. 30 races 1 year ago, he won his most recent event. In the first 3 races of this year, he is without a top 10 finish, and that is the first time in his career that he has done that. He is already 232 points behind the leader in Winston Cup points, Jeff Gordon, following in 23. But the good news is that he has 8 career wins here at this track in Winston Cup competition, 24 top 5 finishes, and holds the race record for both Atlanta events. Here's Jerry Punch.
A moment ago, I talked to Dale Jarrett. He was very concerned about how poorly his Busch car ran, and Dale said before we talked to him, said, Doc, I pulled the wrong gear today. That's what we're seeing down here now in the Winston Cup garage. Ernie Irvin's crew has just finished changing the gear in the rear end of his Texaco Haviland Ford Thunderbird. Let's go up and talk to Ernie and find out why. Now, we told that some of the guys pulled high gears, and the cars were just bogged down coming off the corner. Ernie, you guys seem pretty satisfied with the car, but I understand you changed the gear, trying to get the car off the corner a little bit more?
It runs a little bit too much off the corner, so we're going to just try to get it where it'll run good and get good gas mileage.
All right, so maybe not quite so much throttle coming off, but yet the car will free up and get some pretty good mileage?
Well, I mean, we think it will. Obviously this race is a long race, and you got to be able to get good mileage, but you got to have good performance. And I think Doug and all them work on that and be able to get us the best of both worlds.
All right, Ernie Irvin, 12th quickest in this session. He has a gear change going on. Meanwhile, the king of chassis, Rusty Wallace, they're changing some shocks, right, Double D?
And the king of chassis gets a lot of help from this guy. This is Jeffrey Thousand, and he is the shock guy on the number 2 car, which was so strong last week. Ran him down from the back of the pack, blew him away, lapped most of the field. Now they have just changed, or are in the process of changing, all 4 shocks. On the other side, the other shock is Robin Pemberton. He does this deal a little differently. Some crew chiefs have every element of the setup memorized and in their head. He says, I don't want to remember that. Jeffrey keeps track of that. He keeps the book. I want to be focused on what the car needs, not what the car's got. So I'm up on the truck thinking about what do I need to put into this car to make it better. If we think it needs a stiff right front spring, for example, but we've already got a stiff spring in it, I might rule that out because I think, no, it's already stiff enough. If I go in and thinking what it needs and it's telling me it needs more spring, I'll put more spring on it and not be handicapped by that. Meanwhile, calmly waiting in the driver's seat is Rusty himself. He chewed him up last week. You got a lot of hurrying to do tomorrow coming this far back. Can you catch him tomorrow?
Yeah, we can do it. Just got a good pit crew. I'm going to have to rely on the crew. We'll try to knock as many cars off we possibly can and see what we can get done. Right now, we're changing a bunch of shocks, trying to get the best setup. The track's pretty slick out there.
This guy qualified badly last year, too, and led most of the laps of the race before he blew an engine. Rusty Wallace fires it up and heads back out, and Robin Pemberton goes back to the top of the trailer to try to figure out what this thing needs.
You come in, you go out, you run a few laps, you come back in and make more adjustments. That's the story of happy hour. Tomorrow's race is going to be so exciting because of the qualifying effort that we had yesterday. A lot of these drivers that are going to be competitive are starting in the mid to rear of the field, and they're going to be charging through the pack. Now he gets in line behind Terry Labonte and pulls out on pit road and gets set to go back out on the 1.5-mile oval they call Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Miller Lite Ford. Rusty Wallace, last week's winner at Richmond. While he gets up to speed, we will take another break and be back with the continuation of NASCAR Winston Cup Happy Hour. Still at the top of the speed charts is Bobby Labonte. From our Pennzoil copter cam, you can see Rusty Wallace coming back in. Now, he came out there and he ran about 3 laps, but as you can see, he's pulling back into the garage area, and the Pennzoil copter cam follows him back, and we see a traffic jam there, just like they had earlier in the press session when Billy Standridge and Lake Speed had a collision before they even got out on the racetrack. Here's Jerry.
Well, this guy will start 5th tomorrow. Great run for the Circuit City Ford of Hut Strickland. And Hut, have you come off the clouds? The car not only qualified well, but is practicing well. You're in the top 10.
Well, Jerry, I tell you, Circuit City Ford's really running good. Since we've been here, we've been, getting a little extra help this week from Bob Glidden's 2 boys and Bob, with the engine department and everything. I tell you, I'm really excited about this weekend. I think this could be our day.
You qualified with your own engine. You told us on qualifying day you were hoping that Glidden would have a motor ready for you for race day. Do you have that motor to race?
Yeah, they brought it in this morning, and we put it in there, run this evening with it. Things seems to be pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with it, so we'll just have to wait and see tomorrow.
Well, I'm impressed with this team because they lost their crew chief, Felipe Lopez, the Monday after Rockingham. He went to work for Dale Earnhardt's Winston Cup team. Richard Broom, who was the team manager, has now assumed the additional duties of crew chief. He's calling the shots. And, folks, the last time we saw this race car run was at Darlington, South Carolina, when Hutt almost won it. He finished 2nd in this very same machine.
Bob Glidden, such a name in drag racing, but since he retired and started building engines and helping Jeff Bodine and Hut Strickland, I've heard his name mentioned more than in recent years.
Well, it's a big deal in NASCAR Winston Cup racing to have his expertise there. Of course, Jeff Bodine is quick to point out that Glidden is a research and development. For
a lot of traffic. Bobby Hamilton going out. Here comes Ricky Rudd in.
They don't have a stoplight, but they do have a patrolman there that does, in fact, wave the traffic in and out. Jeff Bodine, we talk about Bob Glidden. Jeff Bodine's guys are assembling the engines. The engine in the 8 car might be the first engine that Glidden has assembled that will go on the racetrack, because all Glidden has done for Bodine's folks so far has just been give him some information, some feedback as to what he thinks will make the car run better. There we see Jeff Gordon, the 24 cars. He goes by the 94 car, and there's another Gordon.
No relation, but this guy has stolen all of the headlines so far. He'll start from the pole position in tomorrow's PrimeStar 500. Robbie Gordon won the pole yesterday with a lap of 186.507, setting a new track record. And Gordon was nearly in tears yesterday when he captured the Busch Pole Award. A very impressive performance for a guy who was in his rookie year, although he has driven in some NASCAR Winston Cup events prior to this season.
So Billy Standridge says red 78 car on the apron of the racetrack, so he's able to get back on the racetrack.
Boy, what an impressive qualifying run for Billy Standards. He had that problem here today, but starts 11th tomorrow.
Dave has an update on Ricky Craven.
Ricky Craven, 5th in points, 13th on the grid, 3rd fastest thus far in happy hour. They're buttoning up the motor here after changing the timing and also doing a shock change. Andy Graves, of course, is the new crew chief with this team, and he's been pretty impressive in just a couple of events thus far. Craven is ready to go back out. Quickly updating a couple of other stories. The 7 car of Bodine, you were talking about the engine situation. He lost about 10 minutes a few minutes ago in happy hour because the engine was losing water. They found the leak, and they've got that solved, and he's back out there. The number 8 car of Hut Strickland, the other car benefiting from that Glidden engine, he's very happy. Reporting on the radio, he's got good power, especially likes the way it performs off the corner. Bobby Labonte has just pulled in, and it looks like probable shock change coming here. Jerry?
All right, a 3-time Winston Cup champion is also a 3-time winner here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. DW, we talked about how emotional Robbie Gordon was that on the pole. There probably was some emotion knowing you guys had a shot at it.
Yeah, I really was. I was there. I left a little on the table, Doc. I guess I was too much of a veteran. Everybody's complaining about the track, and I didn't really let it all hang out. But I got what I needed. I don't think I could have beat Robbie, and I'd rather start 3rd anyway. So I'm tickled to death. The Western Auto team and the Chevrolet is running great.
You know, we're just looking at our clockings during this practice session. You're backing up your qualifying run. You're among the quicker 10, the top 10 cars in this practice.
It's amazing, isn't it? I wonder how I do that. The car is fantastic. It's running really a great engine this week. Good chassis. The guys are doing a fantastic job. I couldn't be happier, Doc. I mean, this is what I want. This is the way I want to run. Qualify up front, have a fast car, and go out and at least give myself a chance.
Let me ask you, DW, for a Darrell Waltrip fan out in Red Oak, Iowa, who just heard you say I'd rather start 3rd, why?
Well, say if you watched the Busch race today, which I know a lot of people did, the cat that was started 3rd, I think it was Elton Sawyer, he came off the first lap leading the race. Them 2 guys get side by side going up the back straightaway. You can swing to the inside. It makes it 3 wide for a little ways, but you got that momentum and that draft, and you can get right out front and go on.
All right, Darrell Waltrip will start 3rd tomorrow as Richard Petty watches his car. Boy, wouldn't he like to see his car in victory lane at Atlanta? Petty, a 6-time winner here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Happy hour continues at final 60-minute scramble. It's the final Winston Cup practice before tomorrow's PrimeStar 500. We'll be right back.
From high above Atlanta Motor Speedway for happy hour, we remind you that at 9:45 Eastern Time tonight, the Formula One season begins with the Grand Prix of Australia. Jacques Villeneuve and his Williams teammate Hein Harold Frentzen will have the front row. Michael Schumacher qualified 3rd. Defending Formula One champion Damon Hill, who now drives for the Arrows team, qualified 20th. 9:45 here on the Deuce. Tonight, the Grand Prix of Australia. Tomorrow, NASCAR Today at 12:30 Eastern Time, live here on the Deuce from Atlanta, setting you up for the ABC coverage at 1 o'clock Eastern Time of the PrimeStar 500. And preparations for that continue here at Atlanta, and we ride with the Family Channel PrimeStar car driven by Ted Musgrave, and he looks like he's headed for pit road.
Yes, he is. Right now, visibility is still good as the car's going to 3rd corner. Concerned that the sun may be getting in these drivers' eyes here at 4:10 in the afternoon, but so far everything is okay. We see some of the Goodyear engineers giving the tire temperature on Morgan Shepherd's car, Rick Mast's car, as Musgrave.
He goes in for another adjustment, probably.
Ted Musgrave qualified 7th fastest yesterday, starts inside row number 4. Well, there's a little traffic jam as Ted has to stop. Now he's headed for the garage area, and Jerry is with tomorrow's pole sitter.
Well, 28-year-old Robbie Gordon will lead him down. What a great story that is. Robbie Gordon coming over from the PPG kart ranks. And Robbie, has it sunk in yet that you're going to lead these 42 cars to the green flag tomorrow?
You know, we know we're starting up front. The key is to have a good handling car and try to finish up front today. You know, we're probably one of the last guys going to our 2nd set of tires because we kept working on the car and trying to get it handling better, and we think we may have it here.
Is the car a little bit too loose because the track has changed so much?
Actually, we're opposite. We're pushing a little too much.
All right, they're getting ready to go back out. That is Robbie Gordon, who will start on the pole tomorrow. And Dave, is there a problem with Mark?
You bet. Mark Martin's car started dropping fluid on the racetrack. He radioed in. He thought they might have blown the engine. They pulled the air cleaner. They put the ratchet on the front of the crankshaft to be able to turn it over. Then they started the fan to keep the engine cool. Now they're trying to, frankly, figure out what's going on. You got the brain trust there. Jimmy Finnick, the crew chief, in the window talking to Mark, along with Jack Roush, who is the owner of this team. They aren't 100% certain what's wrong, so the point is they don't know for sure how serious it is. They think it could be ignition, but if the radio report of fluid on the racetrack is true, that is not ignition. Now look at it this way. Yes, it's a bad thing to have happen during happy hour, but it's a whole lot worse thing to have happen 20 laps into the race tomorrow. The car was great, but now there's a problem. A little quick update on Jeff Gordon, give you an idea of how good they are. Their last run, they were testing a set of shocks for Texas.
Thinking well ahead, huh? Well, from ecstasy one moment to down in the dumps the next. That's the story with Mark Martin, as he talked with us just a few minutes ago and expressed great pleasure with his car, and now they scramble to find out what in the world is wrong with it. But that is the story of happy hour. And it continues here at Atlanta with several more minutes to go before we wrap everything up. We'll be back in just a moment. ESPN2's live coverage of Happy Hour from here in Atlanta is being brought to you by Daytona USA, the ultimate motorsports attraction. Just a few more minutes remains in the session. Mark Martin is back out there. We'll update him in a minute. First of all, let's take a look at the grid for tomorrow's race. First of all, we're going to tell you that coming up next, right after we complete our coverage of Happy Hour, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Championship game, Coppin State versus North Carolina A&T, as Championship Week continues on ESPN and ESPN2.
There we go. The top 15 cars starting tomorrow's PRIMESTAR 500. Robbie Gordon, Mark Martin, Darrell Waltrip, Dick Trickle, Great Run, Hut Strickland, Lake Speed, Ted Musgrave, Jeff Bodine, Dale Jarrett, Kenny Wallace, Billy Standridge, Jimmy Spencer, Ricky Craven, Jeremy Mayfield, and Bill Elliott. Ned, is that a weird lineup or what?
It's an unusual lineup, certainly, Vinny, on the Super Speedway. 16th through 30, we find Rick Mast, Ernie Irvin, Bobby Hamilton, David Green, Sterling Marlin, Morgan Shepherd, Terry Labonte, Jeff Gordon, and Mike Skinner, and Ricky Rudd. They all got in yesterday in first round qualifying. Then Dale Earnhardt was second round fastest. He'll start 26th, Jeff Burton 27th, Greg Sachs 28th, Bobby Labonte 29th, Kyle Petty 30th.
Back 31 through 42, Michael Waltrip, Chad Little, John Andretti, Gary Bradbury, Kenny Schrader, Ward Burton, Mike Wallace, Rusty Wallace, Steve Grissom, Johnny Benson, Brett Bodine, Joe Nemechek. Those last four, the provisionals.
And here is the list that you never want to reveal, and you feel so sorry for these guys, but they have already packed up and are headed for home. Robert Presley, Derek Cope, Bobby Hillen, Wally Dallenbach, Ed Barrier, Dave Marcus, and Mike Miller.
You almost cry for those guys, folks.
NASCAR today at 12:30 Eastern Time here on the Deuce will set the stage for tomorrow's NASCAR Winston Cup event. And then at 1 o'clock over on ABC, we will have the coverage of the PRIMESTAR 500.
And folks, if you're watching this show right now and you're in driving distance of the Atlanta Motor Speedway, it's going to be a great day, a great race. Come on down and join us. Seats still available.
Mark Martin is back on the track. Dave Despain has the update.
I've got two things for you. I'll let you decide which one is more important. Mark Martin's problem had nothing to do with fluid on the racetrack, that either was an incorrect transmission or it was a transmission about somebody else. The ignition box failed. The engine quit. Rather than take a chance that it might have been something else, they have two boxes. Rather than switch it on the fly, Martin just pushed the clutch, coasted in. They wanted to check and make sure that was the only problem. They determined that it was, and they switched the box and sent him back out. Now, can you see Richard Petty with those stopwatches? We saw him a minute ago going to break. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I watched the King this morning for about 20 minutes, try to figure. He looks like he knows what he's doing. He's got one in each hand. He's got a great vantage point where you can see down to turn one. He could not, for the life of him, figure out how to reset that thing back to zero. I just got word that the 5 car blew up. we better go check that out. He's not back yet.
Let's go to Jerry Punch first.
Well, some of Judy Dunleavy's Haile Myers crew are changing the shocks in the front of this car. Number 90 of Dick Trickle. They make a shock change. A lot of changes happening down here because the track has changed drastically from the Busch Grand National race. And Dick, first of all, congratulations. What a great qualifying effort starting in the second row.
Well, we're happy for the Highland Meyer people. They give us a lot of backing. And this is a local area for the Simmons Beauty Rest people too. So, you know, the guys now are trying to do a job here. And, you know, we got the test to qualify, but we didn't get much test for the race, so we're struggling a little bit right now. But we'll get a handle on it. We got 10 minutes left.
Well, you ran 300 miles in the Busch race. What did you learn in the Busch race that'll help you tomorrow in the Winston Cupper?
Push, push, push. I pushed all day long, and we're trying to get it out of this one.
In other words, coming off the corner for the folks listening at home, you turn the wheel and the car won't turn.
Yeah, I can drive it down in with good speed, but when I get to the middle, I can't get back in the gas. It wants to run the car up, so I have to, you know, lighten up the throttle a little bit and light foot a little bit to get up off, and otherwise you push to the third groove and into the wall.
All right, well, that's Dick Trickle. He starts fourth tomorrow. And we'll find out if indeed one of the cars have had a problem. Maybe Terry Labonte, a defending Winston Cup champion, may have had a problem. And we are getting word here that indeed Labonte has had an engine problem. We'll see if we can verify that with Dave Despain.
They did not pull the car in. Labonte, it looks like he's going to back it in. What we have so far is radio traffic, and the radio traffic says they're happy with the setup. It was better today than they were yesterday, but they backed it in because they're going to change that engine. He apparently has thrown a rod. We have yet to confirm that. That's what he radioed in. He thought he had thrown a rod. He is, yeah, let me ask him real quick. Terry Labonte, what happened?
I don't know. It's got a big dent in the oil pan from the inside out.
That's not the way it should work, right?
No, we lost the engine. At least it did it coming off the corner. They usually blow up going in the corner.
For a guy who just blew up the engine on such a great race car, you got a smile on your face. You're the guy who shows no emotion. If I were going to show emotion now, I think it would be different from this one.
Well, I'm glad it blew up today instead of tomorrow. And I don't know. All our engines are good, you know, so I'm not concerned about our backup engine. I know it'll be as good as this one, and the car's running pretty good, so, you know, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Tell us about what you got in your hand there, if you don't mind sparing another minute for the folks at home who may not know about this. What is that?
Well, that's the tire temperature, and, you know, we coasted in out there and got a tire temperature, and we kind of look at that a little bit and help tune the chassis with it.
Is that pretty indicative then? I mean, to give you a good opportunity to do the tire check since the engine was blown up anyway?
I thought I might as well stop on pit road while I was coasting by.
All right, we'll get out of your face. That's the story. Blew the engine. He's not terribly worried about it. They thought the car was really, really good.
And
so it's happy hour fun.
The Terry Labonte crew has more work to do as happy hour is winding down here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll be back in just a moment with more. The concluding laps of happy hour here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Stay tuned as championship week continues here on the Deuce, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Championship featuring Coppin State and North Carolina A&T. That's coming up in just a moment here on ESPN2. Jerry is with last year's pole sitter here in Atlanta, Johnny Benson.
Well, they call it happy hour. At least, Johnny, you can be happy. This year you came back when this race, so this session was over with a race car.
That's why we quit a couple laps ago. We still got that car, so we're struggling a little bit today, but we're gonna make some changes. Let's see what happens. Hopefully this last little bit we've made some gain, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be enough.
What do the tire temperatures tell you? Are you close?
Our tire temps are showing close, but we're loose getting in and into the corners, and that's not the best feeling here. So we're just making a couple adjustments, and what we wanted to try, we don't have enough time to do it and get back out. So we might take a guess on it. We'll see what happens.
All right, Johnny Benson's last year pole sitter. He will be a provisional starter come tomorrow. He will start in 42nd spot. Double D.
Here's the good news for Terry Labonte. The car that just blew the engine is car number 59. It has run 6 times. Twice at Charlotte last year, finished first and second. Twice at Michigan, finished second and third. Twice at Atlanta, finished second and fifth. In 6 runs, the car's never been worse than fifth. 5 times it's been in the top 3. It'll get a new bullet tonight. They got some more work to do plugging in a new engine, and they'll be ready to rock and roll tomorrow.
So Terry Labonte continues to have a little bit of a problem, but he and the others will be going for the checkered flag here tomorrow. And we remind you that again at 9:45 Eastern time tonight, live here on ESPN2, the Grand Prix of Australia with Jacques Villeneuve on the pole for that event. 9:45 tonight. Tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern time here on the Deuce, Dave Despain and the others will set you up for the race here at Atlanta, and on ABC at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Jack Arute will join Jerry, Bill, Benny, and me for live coverage of the PRIMESTAR 500. Coming up next, MEAC Championship, Coppin State versus North Carolina A&T as championship week continues here on ESPN2 and ESPN. That wraps up our coverage of Happy Hour here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll see you tomorrow. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.